You probably heard about the pizza crust, the DNA, the architect who lived a double life in a quiet Long Island suburb. What you might not have heard is how it actually ended, because for most people, the story just stopped after the arrest. It didn't stop there. It ended in a courtroom, with the man himself standing up and admitting, in his own words, to killing 8 women over 17 years. This is the last chapter of the Gilgo Beach case, and it's stranger and sadder than most people realize. Quick recap if you're new here. In 2010, police searching for a missing woman found a body wrapped in burlap along Ocean Parkway on Long Island. Then another. Over the following months, the remains of nearly a dozen people were recovered along that same stretch of highway. Most were young women who had worked as escorts. For over a decade, nobody was charged. The case became one of the most notorious unsolved serial killings in American history. The break came in 2023 when a reformed task force traced a witness description of a pickup truck back to a Massapequa Park architect named Rex Heuermann. Investigators surveilled him for weeks and eventually recovered his DNA off a pizza box he tossed in a Manhattan trash can. That DNA matched a hair found on the burlap used to bind one of the victims. He was arrested in July 2023 and charged with murder. For almost 3 years after that, he fought it. He pleaded not guilty. His lawyers challenged the DNA evidence, challenged the surveillance, challenged almost everything the prosecution built the case on. It looked headed for a long, contested trial. Then, in April 2026, everything changed. Heuermann stood up in a packed Suffolk County courtroom and pleaded guilty, not to 3 murders, not to 4, but to 7 counts of murder outright. And he admitted in open court to killing an 8th woman as well. 8 victims, spanning 17 years. Their names were Maureen Brainerd Barnes, Melissa Barthelemy, Megan Waterman, Amberlyn Costello, Jessica Taylor, Valerie Mack, Karen Vergata, and Sandra Castilla. Some of those cases dated back to the 1990s, years before the first Gilgo Beach body was ever found. 2 forensic labs had linked hair evidence from 6 of those victims directly back to Heuermann or to people in his own household. That's part of what made the case, by the time it reached this point, close to unwinnable for the defense. Family members were in that courtroom. Jessica Taylor's mother, Elizabeth Botchkiel, said afterward that having him plead guilty took a weight off her family she hadn't expected to feel. Maureen Brainerd Barnes' sister said the same thing. After more than a decade, it was finally over. In June 2026, Heuermann was formally sentenced, life in prison without the possibility of parole. But here's the part almost nobody talks about. The case isn't fully closed, even now. Investigators recovered the remains of at least 11 people along that stretch of Long Island. Only 8 are officially tied to Heuermann. The rest are still open questions. One of them is a woman known only as Peaches for years, found with a toddler nearby that investigators called Baby Doe. It took until 2025, using genetic genealogy, for authorities to finally identify them. Tanya Jackson, a 26-year-old Army veteran, and her 2-year-old daughter Tatiana. Investigators believe their deaths may not even be connected to Heuermann at all. A different man was later charged in that case. Another victim, found in April 2011 along the same parkway, still has no name. Investigators have only been able to determine that the remains belong to an Asian biological male who was dressed exclusively in women's clothing. Suffolk County's District Attorney has said publicly it's possible this person identified as a woman or was known to others as one. As of now, they remain unidentified, one of the last true mysteries left in a case that consumed Long Island for over a decade. And then there's Shannon Gilbert, the woman whose disappearance triggered the entire search back in 2010. Her death was never charged as a Heuermann murder at all. When he stood up and confessed to 8 killings, her name wasn't one of them. Her family wasn't in that courtroom. So the headline, Gilgo Beach Killer Pleads Guilty, is true, but it's not the whole story. 8 women got justice. At least one more still doesn't have a name. And the woman whose disappearance started the entire investigation still doesn't have an official answer over 15 years later. That's usually where a true crime story is supposed to end, with a verdict, a sentence, a clean resolution. This one doesn't quite give you that. And maybe that's the most honest thing about it. If you want to keep following stories like this, the ones with real endings and the ones that still don't have them, subscribe because there's more of this case still unfolding, and I'll be covering it as it happens.